a big question mark, I think, in this space of what does it look like to be a good one, to be a good man, to be a good king, and to understand the progression of the masculine journey, SJ, is so that you can be entrusted and trusted with a kingdom, a small K kingdom.
Yeah.
He's the King, capital K of kings, Lord of lords. With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more. Welcome to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out with SJ Jennings, and yeah, man, we're finally at this place to really talk about King Me in a little deeper exploration. So this is, I think you're the one with a few more questions and, opportunity to,
yeah, man,
ask the author.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
do my best, Johnny Carson. So we did a couple episodes, about just kind of getting the overview.
Yeah.
A few months ago.
Right. But this is a little different.
Yeah. Well, and the book's in print now, getting ready to be released, March 15th. So, just about a week from now. So for those folks that didn't catch our previous, episodes, just, if you had a long elevator ride, let's say you were going up to the 38th floor or something, and it was an older building. 2 to 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Slow building.
Slow building, yeah. Right. Yeah, slow elevator. How would you describe King Me? And why is the message of King Me important?
Yeah. What comes to mind quickly is the subtitle was one of the last things we found. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, sometimes you just think, it's all laid out.
Right.
What vacation is, what trip is, what battle plan. There's a plan when you start, and then the plan unfolds, and you shift and you move and you fire and maneuver, or you break down, somewhere, and that's where you're spending the night.
Right.
So,
right.
So that's true. That's been true for me in the 3 books, and in this particular case, this subtitle, I think, "Loving and Leading in a Wounding World," was so to answer the question, kind of what's it about, or what in a few seconds, few moments that's it. Loving and leading in a wounding world, and really summarizes a lot of what does that look like. And then there's just a lot of, kind of deeper suppositions.
Oh man,
deeper
thinking of 1,000 things
that I could subtitle the subtitle, subtitle the subtitle,
and pre-title the subtitle.
Yeah,
and, all of that, no doubt.
But by the end of the journey of this book, that's why that's the subtitle. Mm-hmm. What does it look like for a man to love and lead well in a hostile? That didn't look so good on the cover. There's other synonyms for this.
Yeah, in a wounding world.
Life outside the garden, hostile. Yeah. Your life with God is violently opposed and has been.
As the leader of your family, right? The king of your small K kingdom. Right. You've been wounded.
Yeah.
And you've been wounding.
Yeah.
So there's that nuance to it as well, right?
That's a big part, the masculine journey, and what should it look like when you think of developmental psychology? What is developmental spiritual psychology, philosophy, theology look like? These stages of manhood, stages of masculinity. And if you can't, and I say this with great caution and yet intent. If you can't agree on, what does it look like? What's it supposed to be? And that's for white men, black men, older men, younger men, men born into spaces with means, men born into poverty. There's still a masculine heart in there. There's still a masculine heart, and there's something that is needed in order to arrive to a place where you know what a man is, you know what a man's for, you know why. Not only God made them, but why you're here purposefully. And those are things that we are addressing in, many, many pages, many spaces through the chapters of the book. So I think we got stuck on floor 27 or something there, but
that's okay.
But on our way to 38.
Yeah, it's or like an elf, somebody hit all the buttons all the way.
Stop on every.
So
that's great. So
yeah, man, good. I think about King Me in this context, as I've read it a couple of times now. I've had the opportunity to do that, right? Being in my role at Zoweh. And I think about all the weekends, all the Sundays that I went to church, and particularly the days I went, like that were Father's Day or some kind of a teaching focused on, men as the leader of their home, the king of their small K kingdom. And I remember hearing a lot of scripture, which is not unhelpful. But I think one of the things that's been most helpful with King Me is sort of some of the exploration and the, exegesis, right?
Good word.
Taking that scripture and kind of, let's stretch it out a little bit and not change it. Right, but
get the microscope.
What's underneath there? What's in the layers
and look at some
of the Hebrew, of the Greek, and all of that? And I think that King Me has been helpful in that regard, helping me to understand, and I know it will be for hopefully hundreds of thousands of other men, helping me to understand what it means to love and to lead in a wounding world, like not just hearing what I'm supposed to do. But helping me unravel how that was done for me and how that was done for me informs the way I'm trying to do it. And then throw the lens of biblical truth on top of that.
Yeah. It's, where I go, I've got a couple images that just kind of drop in. There's a lot of places that we get trained well. Maybe we go to school for that and we get our first jobs in that. And I think of certain skills, like our friend Jeff Andreessen or Mike Glenn, who was just in here, he was a fighter pilot. I mean, there's some training in that space to become one of those. Yeah. Okay. My son-in-law, who I love dearly, Anders, that guy he's a PGA golfer. He trains. When I was playing professional basketball, I was training 7 and 8 hours a day. You asked me earlier today, you saw me looking at a basketball online at eBay. Yeah. You said, you're buying a ball? That's $100 ball. I said, well, it's a special ball. It's not one you play with. It's one you set kind of display. It was a USA ball. That anyway, what I was going with that is there's training. There's training. And so when you and I play golf, we just kind of dust off the clubs and go play. We're not really golfers.
Yeah, try to finish with the same ball you start with, right?
And that never happens, So
one time.
And when you're a pilot, if you make a bad move, you don't get a bogey, you don't get a double bogey, you lose a craft, you lose all your passengers. And so there's just a big question mark, I think, in this space of what does it look like to be a good one, to be a good man, to be a good king, and to understand the progression of the masculine journey SJ, is so that you can be entrusted and trusted with a kingdom, a small K kingdom.
Yeah.
He's the King, capital K of kings, Lord of lords. But the more I got into what God's love was about, his unconditional love was about, it was about equipping me and equipping us to then love others.
Mm-hmm.
That it just makes sense. I mean, anybody who knows just a few Bible passages knows what's the greatest, when Jesus asked, what's the greatest commandment? Love God, love others. Heart, soul, mind, body, strength, right? So, yeah, how do you do that?
Right.
How's that done? And there's just some variables in there that, one, for instance, that we probably won't talk about today, but just it comes to my mind is, well, if you have Jesus wrong, there's no way you're going to get right, And so your image of Jesus, whose image you bear, the King of Kings, if he's not the person you want to be like, you want to become like, then, man, then something has either been. Now it's different to be that's who you're supposed to be like. Why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like, and your image, I don't even like my brother right now, I don't, and I'm talking about physical families and brother,
Sure.
If you've heard that line, why can't you be more like Johnny down the street? Why can't you be more like Steve down in that office? If you just apply yourself, I mean, those moments are hard, but if you don't know what a really good man looks like and what that, then why are we so upset that men are so not good men across the landscape anyway of masculinity?
Yeah.
So there's some attempts in this book to bring some clarity to a very challenging conversation about masculinity, and especially the state of it now, where generationally things have cycled in a way that's kind of downward.
Mm-hmm.
Men are, the reputation is somewhat badly well earned over the last 4 or 5 generations. And so taking a look at that, what are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And if masculinity is bestowed by or through masculinity, that good men is what's needed to show young masculine hearts what it is to be good. And it's trial and error, man. But is there someone there for that?
Mm-hmm.
Is there someone who is on mission to help you when you're 8, 9, and 10, and 18, 19, and 20, and 28, 29, and 30, and in these decades, is there someone there to usher you forward, initiation, validation, training, and when the mistakes are made, and they will be made, is there someone there? Or do you retreat and hide because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of the fear? How do you overcome those inglorious bastards?
Yeah, really.
Guilt, shame, and fear, and the number that they do on a man's heart, even at a very young age. He's not a man.
Yeah,
he's 4, 5, and 6. What's that look like? Is his home front even on board with? We got a boy. He'll be a man. What does that look like intentionally? And because so many of us were not raised intentionally in that regard. There's what I'm just describing this in a taste, the spiral down.
Yeah.
So
guilt, shame, and fear too, it occurs to me, can be really strong, awful motivators.
Oh, whether you're motivated to avoid them or you're motivated by them, you're 100% right. They make cowards of us all, and yet that's not what we were made for.
Right.
And so to be loved, to be beloved sons, to carry the weight of a kingdom, eventually to carry the weight of a kingdom, and those that are in that space, in that realm of your influence, of your, where Dallas Willard says, a kingdom, your kingdom, a man's kingdom is where his will is done or where his will is exercised.
That's right.
Most of the time, where some of those who are in his kingdom, maybe they're not listening. Maybe they don't want to.
Right.
So they're on their journey.
Subjects,
Yes. So all of that to say, I was moving in this direction with this book. And just like I said, where the subtitle comes in much later, so did many of the other, through the discovery process, through the deepening process, through the wait a minute, that's what that word means in the Greek, in the Hebrew. This is the original. This is the original job description in Genesis 3.
Yeah.
To reign and rule. And by the way, this is the end of the story in Revelation. We will reign with him forever. New heaven, new earth. So there wasn't a ton of I knew it. But there was a lot of this is so good.
Yeah.
This is so important. And to look at what Jesus did. And how he literally wielded is the word, how he wielded his power and authority, and how strong his presence was. I think this is the genius behind The Chosen, honestly.
Oh, man.
So I'm saying Dallas, what's his name? Dallas
Willard.
No, not Dallas Willard, the creator of The Chosen.
Yeah, great question. Somebody look that up and put it in the comment section.
Oh, he's the son of Jerry. Oh my gosh! Wait a minute, we got to find it so we can.
It's okay. You'll it'll come to you once you stop trying to think about it.
Jenkins. Caleb, I beat you by half a second. So Dallas Jenkins. I mean, this portrayal of Jesus and why I think it's a part of the popularity of The Chosen and the other characters too. These image bearers, these human beings, men and women. And so, but you see Jesus in a way that I think all the way back to this, that's a wide rabbit circle, but all the way back to this place of, if Jesus is like that, if he really is like that, he's pretty cool. I really like him.
Yeah.
And this is a portrayal, obviously, of a character, but this character is the King of Kings.
That's right.
He is the one.
Yeah.
And so I think they're doing a great job in that. And I hopefully have done a good job in creating kind of the connection of being a good king requires an intimacy with the king and a brotherhood with the king. And a friendship. A friendship, yes. Not just service and obedience. Those are good things. I love that you said that. But a friendship. He's my friend. I'm his friend. And he's entrusted this to me. I love him. He loves me. And I'm learning how to be a good king.
Yeah.
And recovering from some of the things that are getting in the way of that. And also being initiated into some of the things that I didn't get.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's take a quick break. Okay. And when we come back, we'll get into part one. We'll talk about part one.
All
okay.
Right.
That was a great job with
short answers, quick jabs. Try to get in and out.
Yeah.
And move through part one.
It'll be great. We'll be right back.
Yep.
I remember where I was sitting and I was writing in my journal the response, kind of where my heart went to one of these questions. And it was God speaking to me and speaking to these things as I was writing. And it was a hugely powerful time for me in realizing this is one of the ways God speaks, in these moments alone when we take our questions to him.
There is something special, there's something precious and intimate about getting away when the real intention is just you and God, that time away with God for the two of you. And that's what the Deepening Weekend sets up.
For me, at least, I need to be away from all the noise of my life to receive what God is trying to tell me.
This weekend affords us time to be still and to ask God some questions.
You come in and we hear about the heart of a woman. How did God originally design us? Before there was any fall, what was his intention for us as women?
All I heard was a quote from Robin. Our deep desire is to be loved unconditionally, to be seen, to be known for who we really are, to be valued, esteemed, desired, pursued, fought for, to be precious to someone, to be their beloved, to be the object of their affection. Our hearts are designed for this by God. That quote just totally undid me.
I have learned about the heart of Jesus through my interactions with the Zoweh community.
Every woman needs to know what it is like to experience healing.
I had no idea that those things that I had been feeling were part of God's design for me, for my life. And it changed the way I lived. It changed everything.
And the reason that I keep going back is because it's all about learning how to receive something that is 100% available to every single person. And that is just belovedness. And that takes a lot of practice, especially if you've learned something completely different. And I had.
All right, welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, where we will be doing never-ending loop on King Me. Sounds like it feels like describing what it is. Caleb said to us, he said, "Okay, now when you do this, let's not give away a whole lot." And I'm like, I can't hardly. I'm not in that place where I can
hold into it.
It's not in little cups now yet for me. It's all kind of one big.
I hear you.
Big gallon drink.
I hear you. So but let's do our best to just give a taste, right?
Okay.
Part one is the heart of a king. So why did you start with the heart?
Uniquely, this is funny as people would probably crack up if they knew how little scripted we were and how often we've got a few things to try to
from
go.
the hip, but yeah.
But we're good shots.
But we're good shots most of the time.
It felt like logically for me that we needed to start with what are we talking about? What is the heart of a king? We talk about Jesus in this first part. I think there's 5 chapters in the first part of the book. So the book's segmented in 4 parts. And that was another thing that came later with the editor and my conversations about a year and a half ago, that, we could just see these 4 parts emerging. And so, we started to, shift the outline a bit and arrange things for, but to answer, what's the problem? The problem is in that first, the heart of a king. What are we up against? Why is masculinity in trouble?
Yep.
And then kind of moving into, there's a line in there about if masculinity is a significant part of the problem in the world.
Yeah.
Bad kings, wounding
kings,
wounding generationally, fatherlessness, some of the things that are statistically kind of easy to see, but not easy to explain, because it's the enemy's working in a pretty broad initiative, assault against masculinity and femininity. So anyway, that's kind of why part one was the heart of a king, was to establish a few of the variables, some definitions. That's, you get past the introduction and hopefully, which is an invitation to come and I'll try to iron some of these things out.
Yeah.
That's where we went with that first part. So
I've got a couple of little bookmarks in here in the first part, and I just wanted to maybe just ask him, read a quote. You can comment on it. So there's this section called Reclaiming Desire. And you've talked about that. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, about how the word desire even has been corrupted by the enemy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say corrupted by, some teachers maybe in our life, but there's been shame attached to desire unrightfully in some respect. And I think in the context of that, reclaiming desire, talking about the counterfeits that can come our way, right? Things that we think are going to alleviate that desire for things, right? It's you grab this or wrote this right here. It's the counterfeits that compromise.
Yeah.
And in compromise, we are wounded, right? Minimized, disappointed. In response, we inevitably develop a self-sufficient, self-protecting, self-promoting system, a system rooted in inner vows to either never or always.
Yeah.
those couple of sentences I just read, we could do a 10-part series on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in there, developing the self-sufficient, self-protecting, self-promoting system. That's a way that we're trying to arrange for and protect our own hearts.
Yeah.
Right? That's the system we put in place.
Yeah.
That oftentimes is the thing that wounds the very people we love.
Yeah. Yeah, which becomes then, what was done to us, unfortunately, we end up doing to others. And there's statistics and cases on that from really horrible acts of, pedophile. I mean, the things that people do, it was done to them,
Right.
And so it's pretty thick to move at that idea of desire and see it reclaimed. And especially the ultimate desire, the deepest desire of every image bearer. If loving and being loved is the commandment or the invitation, then the desire is connected to that. That the deepest desires we have is to be loved and loved. Now, how we go about that when it isn't done well or isn't done, lovingly, that's where some of the system gets corrupted.
Yeah.
So I think just before that part you read, there's a long quote about C.S. Lewis, and he says desire is not the problem; it's where we take our desires. And so when we take them to other image bearers, and if we think of love as validation, acceptance, worth, belonging, being invited, being included, those are all very loving things. We pick you. Come with us. You got invited to this, and just so the opposite on a juvenile sense. I didn't get invited to the party.
I didn't get picked for the team I wanted to be on.
It lands at a place of an unmet desire, or it's just met in a hurtful way. I'm not valuable. They don't like me. I'm unwanted. Those are the conclusions that come into. I've got to figure out what to do to always be invited.
Right. That's the always and never statement.
Or I didn't want to go to that party anyway.
I'm never going to a party ever again.
And you're fourth grade. You're a fourth grader.
Right. Well, the other thing that occurs to me in reclaiming desire, if you're reclaiming it, well, who's had claim to it?
Yeah. Which is
and so these systems, and I know you get into it.
It's not just you. There's forces at work against you.
And there's
trying to
contracts that have been signed.
Trying to corrupt this system.
Your
will. That's what they're after. If they can compromise your will at a young age, then 30 years later, that's going to somehow be operational when you meet her and when you have them, your sons, your daughters, and now, you're in these uncharted waters, and all of us are there sometime. All of us are there, but you don't have anybody, you don't have anyone, and you don't know how to do this.
Yeah, it's up to you.
And so then that's when those systems come in play, and can take you, unfortunately, into the arms of others. And I'm not talking about just sexual or love or adultery or affairs. I'm talking about into. There's a lot of places you can go for coping, a lot of places you can go for comfort, and they won't sustain the weight of this desire to be loved. That's where we move towards God.
I remember
God moved towards us.
I remember having a conversation with a guy and telling him he was having an affair, and he got all mad. Like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're working 85 hours a week. What do you think I mean by that? And so the pressure to perform and he's losing his family, but he's working so hard. It's helping him understand. But I think we're answering our own question a little bit. Why did we start with the heart, right? Yeah. Because if you layer more truth just on top of these wounds, vows, and agreements that you've lived under, if you just try to sugarcoat them with more the next self-help book or something like that, it just doesn't get in there.
Honestly, SJ, everybody's pretty brilliant when it comes to what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Right.
I don't care who we could bring him in here. Yeah. Even the guy on the street that's got the sign, bless him or her heart. We could bring him in here, and I'm telling you, he could sound pretty brilliant at what you should do and what you shouldn't do, what you need to do, what you should, and what's important in life, and what's most important. It would be an interesting experiment, but like Paul in Romans 7, what is this? What's going on? Why am I doing the things I don't want to do? And why am I not doing the things I want to do?
Yeah. Where are my roots connected?
And
right.
And
where am I drawing from?
What do I have a hold of, and what has a hold of me?
Right.
And that's that. This is a book, I think, in general, for a man who's ready, and not all men are. Sometimes you need a few more decades to be ready, have enough failure, or have enough dead bodies in the trunk or behind
carnage.
you. Carnage.
Yeah.
I got to get some help, and so hopefully this is a book that sheds some light on the younger hearts going forward, and definitely helps some of the older 40, 50, 60-year-olds recover what was literally taken from them. And now they just kind of support the giving of it away.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. This next section, I just have another quote here that really stood out to me. Good kings are meant to exercise fierce mastery, take affectionate responsibility, and do it for the good of others. It takes time to learn how, and time to unlearn previous unproductive thinking and ways. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob Hardig, for being such a great editor. He could kind of, like, Dumbledore with those memories, he kind of takes
just
the
pull the thread out.
Yeah. It's always, if you write a book, you need a good editor. But Bob, is so helpful at helping me iron out, some of those kinds of things that are expressions of, really, that's what a good king comes to know. My life is for others. Well, and that's a decade in your 40s, 50s, and 60s when that should be more prevalent, but it won't be if you haven't recovered from some of your adolescence and teen years and all those experiments that some of them literally make YouTube now. Some of those experiments make YouTube, and they're funny when it's not you. Yeah. They make TikToks, they make Instagrams, and I'm literally saying, hey, let's see if we can blow this up, and the guy goes, hey, let's see if we can launch somebody, or let's see how high we can jump over.
Sit on this airbag when I set it up.
Jump over this trampoline into the water, and he gets hung up on the fence. They're kind of funny, but again, the different experiments that we've been a part of, whether somebody else is doing or our own brilliant idea, we just met with a guy not too long ago who, and this could be, if you're thinking, man, is he talking about me? Because we meet with a lot of guys. But, golly, man, some of the things that happened to him that set him up in relationships for failure, it was, again, you could bring guys in from anywhere and they would sound pretty brilliant. Well, you shouldn't have done that, or
here's what you should have done.
Can't you see that you have a paternal issue with your mom, and you've been seeking validation from women for the last 30 years?
Well, I do now.
Yeah, you want to. Do you want to? And hey, instead of going back to the corner with your sign, man, stay in here and let's keep talking, right? Because you're brilliant.
Yeah.
But there's still forces at work that make some of these things almost impossible to secure attachment, secure the system, secure your identity, and secure your purpose. So that has been and will be very evasive to men, and men who are either bored or men who are searching to fulfill some of these desires in there with those broken systems. Yeah. Man, that's not a guy you want to meet, in a
when he's in a tough place,
in a Walmart parking lot, or in a bar who wants to buy you drinks, or maybe even the church foyer.
Yeah, maybe so. As we kind of land the plane on this first episode about part one, the heart of a king. We could do a 6-session series on this thing that I'm about to share, the 6 lies that hinder kingship. Yeah. 6 lies that hinder kingship.
And I didn't, just before you read them, let me just say I did not go do a 100-man survey to come up with these.
Right.
This was 2 decades of walking with men, and particularly the one that's sitting across next to you here. These are firsthand.
Yeah.
So,
and they are true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And so 6 lies that hinder kingship. God does not speak. God is far away. God is mad at me. Like I haven't met his expectations. I'm not good enough.
Right.
Every thought I have is my own. And if God did speak, it wouldn't be good. So, like I said, we could do a 6-part podcast series
on. Which one of these do you want me to pick today? And which one is the crowd? I hear the taunting voices even, from my past of those. Yeah.
So I think every man's going to resonate with one or all of these in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Like I hope as you're listening to this, listeners and watchers, that if those resonate with you, we'll put them down in the description below, these 6 lies.
Yeah.
Because this is, if you're not sure where to find the roots of your woundedness or your false self, as we talk about it, this is a great place to start, these lies.
Yeah. We get to do what we get to do. You could have said, Michael, there's 100 more lies. I'd said, yeah, there's 100. There may be 1,000 more lies.
Tailored specially.
And when we think of the father of lies, Jesus called, Satan in the kingdom of darkness, the father of lies. And that's what foul spirits do. And they enforce those, they maintenance those. So,
bolster them.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but here's the deal. Why those 6 are there, just want a little more context, that if your father knew that and knew how important intimacy with God was, and that, no, God's not far. He's right here, buddy. No, you didn't do this wrong. That wasn't a great choice, but we're not talking about wrong and right here. We're talking about learning how. How your heart was handled. If it was handled by a man who knew those were lies, and could take a position of masculine authority in your life as your dad, and help you navigate those, because it's not if those come up, it's when they come up, and is guilt and shame going to win the day? And so, like in
guilt, shame, fear
in the garden, I was ashamed and so I hid. Versus this doesn't feel right. I need to go find my dad.
Yeah.
So when you lay those 6 out, I just want to say that the sinister nature of those lies have kept me in the corner of the garden, behind the bushes, because the result of those lies in me was I'm on my own. Even if I wanted to talk to God, he's mad. And if he did give me an audience, it's not going to be good.
He's disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. And so again, I think the last one was every thought
is
my own. So now I'm living in such a small world where the universe revolves around my thoughts. And if temptation starts with a thought, and you can start to separate T's apart, and if God's goodness is downloaded in a thought, if he's going to affirm you or validate you, or you're going to hear, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved son. Well done. If God has no ability to communicate, and if he did, you believe it's not going to be good. That's what I mean. The enemy has placed something in the way of your relationship, which you desire deeply, to be known, to be wanted,
to be loved,
to be heard, to be encouraged, to be, So that's where I think identifying those and trying to help a man instead of even beating him with them. Or, I mean, a man can read that and go, yeah, I mean.
Well, that's what I love about the way that you kind of titled that section.
Mm-hmm.
6 lies that hinder kingship, not 6 lies that just disqualify you as a king.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't get back from there.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of guys live.
Yeah.
It's too late. You don't know how badly I've blown it. I mean, all of those things. And the other thing, Michael, about that last one, every thought is my own. I've heard you say it this way a bunch of times. If every thought is just my own, then these thoughts that I'm having are certainly not God's fault. And they're not coming from God because of the kind of thoughts they are. So if it's just me, it must be my fault.
Yeah.
And they must be coming from me.
And that is the nature of the enemy, to not only just offer you, take a sip.
Here's a cup of dirt.
Yeah. Have a sip. This would be good. This will help you through. And then when you do, it's like, I can't believe you just took a sip of that.
Yeah.
You just comforted yourself with that.
Right.
I mean, so it's boom, bam.
Yeah.
And so there's an element. There's definitely an element throughout the book about the spiritual reality as I've learned it from God and walking with other oriented friends, some who are still on this planet, part of the faculty of members of my heart, but also those who, C.S. Lewis and Chesterton and
A.W. Tozer
and so in the research, real quick, and I love Tozer, but to come to find out that Tozer's kingdom, his wife and his children, I think I have this right from remembering and reading. I was just disappointed, hurt to find out that the theologian that he was brilliant, but the father and husband he wasn't. I was like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and we've seen some pretty significant, prolific, leaders in faith and Christianity that have the truth has come out, and it's not good. And so anyway, I think this is, it's not intended to be a manual, but it is intended to be a journey of a guided journey of exploration of your masculine heart, what happened to you, the different stages, and what happens in that decade, and how that's carried to the next decade and the next decade, and can either be used against you or you can get free from.
Yeah.
And some of us had better deals growing up, and that's good. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
If you were fathered well. But one of the things it's just a matter of time. Remember that we talked about this. I remember, and it's in the book, it got in the book a year or so ago, the injury rate in the NFL.
100%.
Yeah. And every soldier, comes home wounded. So because of what they've endured, what's happened to them. And so I think that's true for masculinity and for femininity. I think it's true that you can't live in this larger story, in this war, in this love story that's set in the midst of the greatest war over humanity. And that sounds kind of glaringly like everybody, but it's you.
Yeah.
The war is over you. It's personal. It's individualized.
Very much so.
And so it gets a little more intense when we kind of step out of humanity and into, no, there's an enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and not only wants to hurt you now, but wants to lay claim to you later.
Yeah.
So when you walk down the aisle and when your kingdom expands and your company and your influence and your children, that's when they start to look at the files and say, okay, the collateral damage now, he's 50, 4 kids, we can do some magic here.
Yeah.
Dark magic. We
Right.
can do some things. And that then can set everybody back in his kingdom. When a king on the checkerboard, you know the game, right? And that's the checker piece. And man, when the enemy captures a king, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
He took a piece. Yep, you're not a pawn in checkers moving across the board.
Mm-hmm. Limited in your
what
movement.
you have to do to get across the board and how you have to navigate that, there is some sacrifice. There is some challenges. But when you get there, you get to become a different piece, a new identity. And what do? You don't just stay there to stay safe.
Right. Right.
You move out to try to help get the other pieces, the other players, the other folks on your board across, and so they can become more.
That's right.
And so, that's why it's very important to get across the board and then to start this other part of life for others. So,
So Heart of a King, first part. Next episode, we're going to be getting into the second part of the book, right? Which is the journey
of a king.
Yeah, man. So
that's a good. Didn't know I was setting that up so well, but that's exactly right. That's exactly where
perfect.
Where we, if you don't know how the larger story works, how the game's played, you'll get taken out pretty good. Wait, I didn't know. You were going to jump me and set me on the side.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a second. Yeah.
That's the other cool thing about the piece is you get to the other side, you get to reclaim a piece that's been sidelined. It shapes part of your new identity, but you also reclaim a part that was taken.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I do too, man. And I love it too.
Good deal. Well, hey, share and like and subscribe, and on the podcast platform of your choice. For you audio listeners on YouTube, share and subscribe, and helps us be found, helps this message get out there. So
and we're very excited about March 15th and would love your help. This is kind of a crowd-funded
it really
thing,
is.
And we're partnering. I want to use that term loosely with Amazon, our
they take their pound of flesh,
our sponsor. but hey, Amazon would love to be used. Just like they want to be. So we want to invite everybody to go to Amazon to use their accounts to get their books there, because there's a part of a scale that gets tipped in those first couple months, and if we become a little glitch or a beep or some kind of something on the Amazon machine, all of a sudden King Me moves in spaces that we don't have that kind of money to market and that kind of budget to move, but Amazon does. And so we would love your help in moving that. And when it's time after you've read it, hopefully it's worth a review, I hope. And it's encouraging. So so I'm looking forward to. We're doing this prior to the launch and release March 15th, and I think we're dropping this just prior to, but all of that's kind of coming and
all coming together. I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I went way around the way. It wasn't the most direct route.
That's okay.
But it's here. We're pulling in.
That's it.
So it's really good.
That's it.
Thanks, SJ, for the time and the questions.
Yeah, man, it's been fun, and look forward to the next parts and going through the whole thing with you, hearing your heart about it. So
me too.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for watching. Thanks for joining us on the Exploring More podcast, and looking forward to parts 2, 3, and 4. And stay out there, ask God those questions, and explore with Him who you are and how much He loves and cares for you. We'll be praying for you. See you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.